everyone. Let's talk about your philosophy of education, which is your first of several portfolio assignments you will write in this course. So, first of all, let's talk about this assignment and why we do it. So, this assignment basically is asking you to consider who you are as an educator and what you're going to do. What do you think about students, why they learn, all of these things. So, what I want you to think about is philosophy. This week, I asked you to look at a bunch of different philosophies or theorists in education. So you're going to look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Bloom's taxonomy. There's also constructivism. There's also other viewpoints. Some people like behaviorism, all of those. We have our cognitive development theorists. You also have your psychoanalytical theorists, and you can also look up so many other theories. Theories on education are endless and they're constantly evolving. So let's talk about this assignment specifically. So this assignment is a research-based assignment. You must use at least 3 sources, minimum of 3. And it needs to follow APA citations. So you need to use in-text citations. You need to use references, standard grammar, and it should be in size 12 Times New Roman font. Those are just basic formatting standards. Now, let's talk about what the content of this paper actually looks like. So, you're going to consider what you've learned in your other classes and this. You're going to write an essay where you basically talk about these topics. So, first of all, what characterizes a world-class teacher? What are the goals of education? What are the roles of a teacher, the necessary dispositions, and how do you envision these ideas connecting to your future practice? So, what does that mean? First of all, I want you to know I'm not setting a word count on this essay. I don't really believe in word counts because, if you say what you need to say and you're done, I don't want you to fill another page with fluff. Now, I will tell you if your, paper is 1 page, it's not long enough. What I would recommend is a short introduction paragraph. There are 4 questions. I'd recommend a short paragraph, or maybe not short, a paragraph on each question, and then some sort of conclusion. If you do something shorter than this, it's probably not going to gather like the depth that you need. So what I'm asking you to do is make some connections between your own goals and aspirations for your students and yourself as an educator and the literature you use this week. Now, your sources, the 3 that you are required to use, you can use all of the ones from this course or go ahead and find your own. The UW-Whitewater Library has a great search engine. I use it all the time. And so just keep that in mind. It is due on Sunday, the 17th. You must complete this assignment to pass the portfolio, and you have to get a C or better. Now, we're using that rubric again that we talked about last week. It's that portfolio rubric. Basically, I'm looking at your ability to reflect and self-evaluate. Are you thinking about social, cultural, and developmental characteristics of students? So think about your students. What makes up those students? All of your students are diverse. They're unique. You're using high-quality writing. You've proofread. You used APA citations. You are saying things in a, like a college fashion. And you're thinking about philosophical questions in education. Well, good thing I gave you 4 questions to think about. So what I want us to think about a little bit is let's look at some examples. So first thing I want you to think about is these questions don't really go away. This is a topic of educational philosophy. So first of all, these questions here, I guess I'm kind of pointing up. These are the weak hand questions when you get hired. So what do you want to accomplish as a teacher? How will you go about finding your students' attitudes? How are you going to decide what should be taught? All of these questions, how do you, do you teach with an overall plan? All of these ideas, these are just concepts that come right back to this educational philosophy. Now, the other thing I can tell you is I have written like 6 of these. So I wrote one in block. I forget which this one is. This is the one from my master's degree. But, I wrote one in block when I'm a Whitewater graduate. You write 2, actually. You write one in your senior year as well. I can tell you, I wrote another philosophy of education essentially to get into my master's program. And then I wrote one during that program. I wrote another one to get into my doctoral program. And guess what? I wrote another during that program as well. So basically, here's my recommendation to you. Do not get rid of these drafts. I will tell you your philosophy, it's going to grow. It's going to change as you develop as an educator, but you don't ever want to throw it away, because I pull pieces throughout and I'm like, oh, that was a great thought. Or maybe I consider how I can grow, because remember, part of what we're thinking about is how you reflect and grow. So what I want to do is walk you through an example. And this is actually an example from my course last year, last time I taught this. And I just want to just kind of give you guys an example of a structure. So the student, I took out the heading, took all the personal information out, but she titled her paper, she called Meet Them Where They're At. That was her like tagline of what she wants to do as an educator. So you'll notice she has just a very short and sweet introduction. Super simple. Then, to be a world-class teacher, you must do blah, blah, blah. So you'll notice she literally jumped right in. What characterizes a world-class teacher? Well, this student literally told us right away and then defined it. The goal of education should always be growth. So again, here, then she talks to it. What I really liked about this paper is she discusses concepts, she gives examples, and then she actually examines them. If you're just dropping a quote in and then not really discussing it, well, I don't know if you're really understanding it. You're not showing me what that means. The role of an educator. So you'll notice that this student specifically is literally hitting every single question. I also want you to notice one thing that, for example, this paper could have maybe done a little better right in here is you'll notice there's no source in this paragraph. You should definitely, in a research-based paper, use a source in every single paragraph. And then here she talks about, what she's going to do as an educator. And this is, really personal. There's no wrong answer. So then she used her sources, and these are in APA style, which is great. So that's just one example. Another example I'll show you over here is this student took a little bit of a different approach. So this student introduced their educational background first. And this student said, hey, I'm not quite an educator yet. I feel like I'm growing. So instead, this student took the lens of, here's all the examples that I've seen. So you'll see that this student, they've talked about examples. This student, one thing I will note, you'll want to make sure you use APA. This student used footnotes as opposed to the in-text citations. But the content here is really, really good. It talks about different concepts. Then we come down here. The characteristics should allow teachers to complete the goals of education. And then he talks about what the goal of education was. And so, again, I wanted to show you these two as kind of examples. These are two different approaches to tackling your philosophy of education. Both are correct. There are also like 7 other ways you could do it. There's no wrong way to do a philosophy of education, which is one of the coolest things. So, I hope that's a little bit of help. The other thing I'm going to drop is you'll see the next video down is a little mini lesson on how to do APA citations.